Welcome to the Joy and Goal Setting Podcast, where we empower individuals to discover their purpose, achieve their goals, and experience a joyful life through encouraging conversation. I'm your host, Hudson Dodds. Today, we're sitting down with Travis Smith. Travis is a former professional basketball player, co-founder of the nonprofit 2020 Youth Organization, and basketball coach at James Allen High School. We're going to discuss how to utilize your passions to positively impact your community. Travis, welcome to the show, man. I'm so happy you're here.
Yeah, excited to be here. It's great talking to you. It's been a while.
Yeah. So we ask everybody where you're from, what you're currently doing, and I'm going to ask you your favorite place you've ever played basketball.
Oh, wow. Okay. So obviously Travis Smith. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. Right now, I do a couple of things. My main job is working at James Allen High School. I'm the head basketball coach over there, and I also teach entrepreneurship and marketing. I am the co-founder of the 2020 Youth Organization, and I also help out with several nonprofits in the area.
Nice.
Favorite place that I ever played basketball was probably Brazil, Fortaleza and Sao Paulo, but I didn't make much money. But I had a great time down there.
Brazil. What was your favorite thing you had to eat in Brazil?
Ooh, it was simple stuff, rice and beans and just really fresh, you know what I mean, proteins and fresh meats.
Yeah. Not all that dissimilar to grow up in James Allen, though, either.
Right, which I took for granted.
Let's kind of get on that track a little bit. Tell us, how'd you end up in Brazil? Let's walk backwards. Your basketball career. I know for folks that don't know you, let's kind of get going in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I was blessed to receive a scholarship after graduating from Portugal. Had a couple scholarships. Finished up at Mercer University. Had 2 really good seasons there. Go Bears. Then after that, learned a lot really fast. Was able to bounce around to a whole bunch of different countries. I didn't have an agent for representation, which was a huge mistake, but was able to get to some countries off of putting out my game film. And then bounced around, finally found a good situation in Germany and played there for 2 years, ended up getting hurt, and then moved back to Charleston to rehab and just fell in love with being around adolescents and helping them through their journey. And the funny thing is they listen to me when I start talking basketball, but then I'm able to kind of wiggle in some real life skills.
Yeah.
And some mentoring in.
Yeah. So in Germany or any other country for that matter, being a new place, being a new guy on the team, new squad, new languages, all those things, I can't imagine it was all rosy. I'm sure there were some moments that were tough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you think of some times that were difficult to kind of come out of that were, and what did you use to help you get out of those difficult situations?
My faith helped me a ton. My first situation, right after I graduated, I went to China. And so I went to China thinking that I was going to be eating shrimp fried rice and lo mein and egg rolls.
Mama Kim's.
Yeah, it was not that at all. And so I learned a lot really fast. I was kind of, looking back at it, I was immature and I wasn't really quite ready for that situation. So then I grew up from that situation and really took advantage of my next situation. And, there was a couple times where I was the only American on the team and the only person that spoke English as their first language. And so that was an obstacle, but at the same time, I learned a lot about people and being able to read people and read rooms and figure out different ways to still communicate without it always being verbal.
Yeah.
And so those were some really good years. I got to see the world for free and got paid for it and doing something that I really loved and was able to bring a lot of the knowledge back to Charleston when I got back.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm assuming from a little kid, the goal was to play basketball.
Yeah.
So you reach that goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
You become a professional athlete, kind of reach. I mean, I'm assuming NBA would be pinnacle if we're talking pinnacle, but that's still, that's reaching your goal, professional athlete. All of a sudden, it's no longer who you are. What was that experience like to come off of being a pro athlete to becoming, whatever next was? So how did you go? What was that like? And how did you go from pro athlete to the next step?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was tough. It was really tough. I was lost for a while. Yeah, I got done. I was hurt, and so I was already kind of kind of not feeling so great. And then my contract situation was going to be very, very bad. And I ended up just saying that I wanted to start from scratch in Charleston, but starting from scratch was literally from scratch. I didn't have any work experience other than playing basketball. And like you said, you work so hard for a goal, and then, you've reached the goal, and now it's like, all right, what's next? Luckily for me, I had some really good mentors. John Pearson was definitely one of them, and he helped me through that tough time. And I found a lot of joy with working with some kids in the gym, but I still didn't have a job.
Yeah.
And so figuring out what I could do for work, what I like to do, and what my passion would be, started grinding and was able to figure out through networking and just doing the right thing and talking to people and getting a really good situation.
Yeah. So what was next then? So you're in Charleston, you're finding yourself, you're figuring out kind of who you are outside of being a pro athlete. And where'd you land?
So I ended up coaching at Portugal. And so that was through John Pearson and Larry Sally and DeBose Eggleston. They gave me a really good opportunity to start my professional career as an educator in an independent school. And so the segue was once again basketball. I was able to work guys out and bring a lot of energy to that program, the basketball program. And then during the day, found a really good job in the athletic department to get my feet started in the professional world. And it just kind of rolled from there. Started off in the athletic department, then it segued into advancement. And so I learned a whole lot in the advancement field. And that's taken me to the point where I was able to start my own nonprofit with two partners of mine, and was able to also help other nonprofits create and build and have a lot of change and be able to help a lot of people in Charleston.
Yeah, so you found yourself working with students. Did you ever see yourself as someone who would be working with the youth?
That's funny. So my wife asked me that last night, right? So Katie asked me, how'd you learn how to coach? Right? And she was talking X's and O's, but I went on this like long rant. And I was like, so essentially, like, I'll tell her what I told you, but in a like a abbreviated form. I was at Mercer. Well, first off, I had some really good coaches. And I keep them. John Pearson was phenomenal.
And when you say good, both X's and O's, but also teaching you how to be a young man.
Yes.
Yeah.
He invested a lot of time with me. And through my knucklehead phase, when he could have easily given up on me, he didn't.
Yeah. And
he just stayed in it with me. And that always stuck out to me. And then I had some other coaches that were really good X and O wise. And everybody's different. Mm-hmm. And so with that, I remember being at Mercer, and we had a team camp, and I was on the clock. And there was this guy, I can't remember his name, but he was the superintendent and the head basketball coach in this small town in Georgia, right? And his name was Dr. Something. I can't remember his name, but he was late to team camp. Like, he was a day or two late. And his kids, they were still doing good, but they were being kids. They were running all around the gym,
horsing around.
Yeah. And all I heard the whole time, those 2 days, was wait until Dr. So-and-so gets here. Mm-hmm. Wait until Dr. So-and-so gets here. And I'm like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
As soon as he came in the gym, like, everybody, his coaches, his players, the parents, changed completely, right? It was like, his presence.
Yeah.
Without him saying anything, it was like, all right, we gotta get right. And so I remember talking to him, and he was telling me his responsibility as not just a coach, but as a mentor and a community leader. And I was like, you know what? That's what I want to be.
Yeah.
I want to do that for a community. I want to be that for an area, not necessarily like exactly like him, but taking that on and affecting change like that, where it's like through this thing that I love to do, which for him and me is basketball, I can really help a generation of kids, parents, and other adults that are under me as coaches. I can help them be a better version of their self. And at the same time, I'm helping myself because I'm holding myself to a standard that I'm holding them to, which I thought was really cool and kind of resonated with me. And I kind of put a pin in that. I'm kicking myself because I don't remember his name. But I kind of put a pin in that, and I was like, that's how I would love to, that's the profession I would love to have.
Yeah. where do you think your sense of community and desire to impact community comes from? Is that a family thing? Is that something you've grown into because community has impacted you, or is it both?
Yeah. So you've been to James Island before.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, we live next door to our family, right? Even on Johns Island, where my parents stay now, like I live next to my great-grandmother's house, and I live next to my aunt. So, I mean, like family and community is everything. You know, they're one and the same for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to help my community is helping my family and vice versa. You know, I'm the youngest. Yeah, I think I've told you this before, but I'm off my mom and my dad's side, both of them are on James Island, right? They grew up on James Island. Their siblings are on James Island. I'm the youngest boy on both sides out of 61st cousins. And most of us were in Charleston. You know, so like I had a lot of cousins that I looked up to.
Village raised you.
Yeah. A lot of people took their time with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I feel like, you know, I was able to play college basketball. There was a couple of my cousins that played college sports, and then I was the only one that was able to play professionally, right? And so I wouldn't have been able to do that without them. And so for me, it's like, all right, how can I take this knowledge and bring it back to where I came from?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And how wide can that span and that reach go from, you know what I mean, James Island throughout Charleston, throughout the Low Country, and beyond.
So is that the inspiration for 2020, or where does 2020 come in your life, and how did that come to be?
Yeah, so when I was working at Portugal, Trey McLean, who's the co-founder, and he's the executive director, he came into my office and I was working him out. He was playing overseas in Russia at the time. He came back and we were just talking, and we were talking about just different stuff in the community and different ways that we could affect positive change, you know. And so he was really on me, and he was like, "Man, we should do this. We should do this. We should create this." And I'm like, "Yeah, like let's do it, right?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I was kind of like halfway, like,
sure,
"All right, let's do it." And so we met with another guy named Alonzo Simmons. He runs a community center downtown on the east side. And us three put our heads together, and as we kept talking about it, I was like, "Yes, like let's really do this."
Yeah.
And so the first thing that it started with was, let's do a basketball league, right? Because once again, people listen when we talk about basketball.
And you're experts there.
Yeah, right. And so we started with a basketball league. We got some really good sponsors to believe in us just off of word of mouth. We didn't have anything tangible to hand them. You know, we did all the research ourselves to figure out how to become a nonprofit organization. And then we created the league, right? And then a part of the league is, in order for you to play in the league, and it's 13 weeks, in order for you to play in the league, you have to do what we call real talk sessions, where we go over character building, we go over academic achievement, everything that you need to be able to go and play college basketball or beyond, but also just things that you need life skill-wise.
In life, yeah.
And so the first year was 80, then we moved to 180, and last year we had 250 for our third year. And so, but the thing that we noticed and we weren't ready for was the other things, right? Like there's kids that need mentoring outside of the court.
Yeah.
There's kids that need academic assistance, right? There's kids that need coats,
right,
and school supplies.
Yeah.
And one thing that there's always school supplies at the beginning of the year, but the one thing that we realized just from talking to different parents and being in the community was like, you know, we got small children, or we got, you know, middle school age children. They grow out of their shoes and their uniform
quickly
at Christmas time.
Yeah.
And
the worst time, and then what? It's free. Yeah.
And so like, am I going to give them uniform clothes for Christmas, or am I going to give them toys or the new video game?
Right.
And so we offer that service too. You know, so there's just these little things that we were able to start creating and coming up with that filled a lot of voids. You know, so we went from one program where we filled a need to being able to fill, you know, 7 needs. Multiple. And working in Title I schools and doing all type of stuff.
Yeah, it's incredible. So it's grown and it's continuing to grow every year. What are some goals you and Trey have to see for 2020?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's growing our village, right? Allowing, you know, at this point, it started off with me and him doing a lot of the work, and then we created a really nice board of 5, and now it's like, all right, how can we how can we empower more people to do what they're good at, and we back up some, and allow more people to be involved in this organization.
Which enhances the community, because now you have the community coming alongside
Exactly.
and putting themselves back into the community and impacting it. So now you've taken something that's going to help. You think that you're just helping over here, but in reality, these folks are also getting help.
Yeah, it's creating that ecosystem where it's like, the kids that we started off with, they're about to graduate high school, and now they'll be the kids. They'll be some of the new mentors, or they'll be the coaches, or. So, I mean, the big thing for us in the next 3 to 5 years is, really building to that next stage. We're only 3 years old, and we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
So the next 3 to 5 years, as we approach, year 5 and eventually year 10, is getting more established in the community, continuing to be consistent, filling the needs of the community, and, beyond that, just being able to empower more people that's in a similar situation that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of athletes, not just basketball players, but after they get done, they're lost. Hopefully we could be a haven for them to not only make a little bit of money, but enjoy what they're doing. And then we can help, through our connections, we can help them find their next career while they're helping and giving back to kids with the knowledge that they've gained while leaving Charleston and coming back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with 2020, you work, that takes up time. You're a husband and a father.
Yeah.
You're coaching at James Island. You're teaching classes at James Island. You got a lot on your plate. How do you balance all of these things? And how do you set goals and work towards them so that you're not heavy on one of them? Or do you find yourself sometimes in seasons where it seems like you're spending too much time over here? What does that balance look like? And how do you, if you're in a rut, how do you get out of it?
Yeah, life is definitely about balance, and with juggling all those things that you're saying, it's tough sometimes. But I'll be honest, like when I first met Mark, we sat down and talked, and and I know you talked to Mark, whenever you talk to Mark, it's like, a bunch of different ideas all at the same time. And I'm sort of like that. But I don't have as many. I'm not as creative as Mark. But then I met Dave, right? And I went through the framework. And before I went through that, like I had everything that I wanted to do written down. I had it all up here.
Yeah.
But it made zero sense. How things connected, how I could balance my time. It was like it was never ending. And after doing the framework and going through the deliberate practice and concentrating on one thing at a time, and really prioritizing what matters the most, things got easier.
Yeah.
Now I say that, and my wife will probably kick me because she'll be like, "It sounds like you're trying to add some more on." I don't need to add anything else on, but no, seriously, man. Like I think that was a huge blessing in my life at the time that it came, because I was able to organize and really get more goal oriented. For that time of my life and that season. So
well, I mean, and you're someone who has done a lot and achieved a lot and had a lot of success. I mean, at the highest level, right? Mm-hmm. So you clearly are goal oriented, but what I'm hearing is that there's a difference between having it up here and that's it, and then looking at other areas of your life and having goals over there as well. Because your goals were centered on athletic achievement and professional achievement, right? Mm-hmm. And now what I'm hearing is that it's helped you to set goals in the areas that maybe you weren't quite spending so much time or even thought towards.
Absolutely.
And seeing some successes and wins there to feed into your values.
The weirdest thing though was like the question of like, what did you learn, right? What worked and what didn't work?
Yeah.
And so like
on a weekly basis.
Yeah, on a weekly basis. And so for me, as a former athlete and a person that's just like, you just gotta get it done. You know what I mean? Either you win the game or you lose the game.
Doesn't really matter why. You just
Yeah, it's like, what do you mean? Like you're okay with, like it's okay to fail.
Right.
You know what I mean? Either you win the championship or you don't.
Right.
Either you win region or you don't win region.
Right.
But even like that's helped me as a coach and as a mentor to understand that, you know, especially on the path to success, failure is not a negative thing, right? You have to do that to grow, and that goes back to that growth mindset,
Right.
And that's something that my team hears every day. Like we say grow on 3, 1, 2, 3, grow. You know what I mean? Our acronym is grow. Goals run on we. The only way that we can reach our goals is, you know what I mean, with each other, and we gotta grow, and it's gonna be painful. You know, so like that was a big key for me, where it was like, all right, don't run away from your failures. If you have a shortcoming, evaluate why, and then figure out how to do better the next week.
Right.
As opposed to being like, you know, we lost, but we didn't do because we didn't do whatever.
X, Y,
it's like that excuse, right?
Right.
As opposed to being like, all right, we lost. This is what they did. This is what we did. This is how we can improve.
Right.
Let's go attack it next game.
And even further, right? Of like, yeah, we didn't execute over here, but why? Was it during the game? Was it preparation?
Right.
Was it because we didn't scout well enough?
Yeah.
It's even the further back. And then you can really grow as a person, if we're talking about, but as an organization, even, right? You can you translate it into the organization and say, like, what's really going on here? Diagnose on a weekly, quarterly, monthly basis, and growing that person you want to be.
Yeah, it's transferable to all things, right? Like even as a father, like I'm not gonna do everything perfect, you know. But I could try as hard as I can, and then evaluate, like, all right, like maybe I need to change that. Or same thing as a husband, or, you know, I mean, the head of a household. Just like, you know, there's going to be those failures if you're sometimes, right? And if you're transparent and honest with yourself, that's where the growth comes in.
Yeah. So you're coaching James Allen, head coach.
Yep.
It's awesome. What kind of goals do you have professionally as it pertains to coaching? Like, do you have any? If so, what are they, or are you there? What does that look like for you?
I mean, my goals for the most part, and that goes back to John Pearson. Like, I learned a lot from coaching under him for 6 years and playing for him for 5 years. Right. Invest in your kids and your program from the earliest age all the way through. You know, I think one big thing is, like, we often underestimate how impactful those teenage years are, and the people that positively impact your teenage years, right? And so if I could be that positive influence on not just the kids in my program, but any kid that I come in contact with, like, I mean, just a sentence or a word, or just showing that you care, can change the course of somebody's life. Is how I see it.
Yeah. So my mantra is impact intentionally.
Oh, okay.
And so it comes from this. When I used to do chapel, I used to do one every year, and it was either a fueler or a sucker. And so the idea is that as humans, as relational beings, we're always going to impact people. It's never like you never interact with someone and it's just like nothing happens. Either they positively impact you or they negatively. And so as a human, we're either sucking life out of people or we're fueling life into people.
I like that. I gotta steal that.
And well, you know people in life that, like, when you leave the conversation, you feel fueled. Yeah. And there are people you leave and you feel sucked, like they drained you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so with the kids, I always talk about choose. Like there's no in between. Like, you're one or the other. Yeah. And one is self-centered and one is selfless. And so, impacting people, I know that I'm going to impact regardless. And so I want to be intentional about it. And it comes back to, like, being specific a little bit of, like, just, like, be nice today. Like, that's not, no, it needs to be intentional. Like, today I'm going to be nice by, or I'm going to be patient with my children through this. Otherwise, we're never going to hit it, right?
No. That means a lot, though.
Yeah.
Intentionally doing it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And intentionally doing it with, like you said, the next generation, I think is huge. It's key. Seeing role models, seeing people have done it, seeing people have been successful, right? And how they live their life impacts them, and hopefully positively. It's where you want to live.
Yeah, I think a big thing for me in this this opportunity at James Allen is just, you know, helping as many kids as I can get to school. You know, whether that's for free or as close to free as they can. Basketball is the avenue, or also just giving them the resources to be able to get to that next chapter in life, because college isn't for everybody.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's like, being just that extra support system, just being a community leader as much as possible, and being able to support these kids in this community as much as I can.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah, so my mantra is meaningful connections. And it really stood out to me because I like to think of myself as a connector of people. And one thing that helps me with in the nonprofit space is being able to connect people that align, and being able to connect on those visions. I think one really cool thing about nonprofits is everybody's in it to help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? More so than any other industry. And I thought, like, the first day I was in advancement, I was like, the competition isn't really there. It's like everybody genuinely wants to make the world a better place.
Right.
And so, just that mentality alone is helpful. And then if I could connect those, if I could play a part in connecting one organization to another, or one person to an organization, or however that connection happens, I think is great.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Working in development, working in advancement, and being from both of us in the athletic kind of background, you're used to competing for self, really.
Yeah.
I mean, we say team, it is team, but it's so that I can win a trophy.
Yeah.
And then when you're in the nonprofit space, it's truly about others, and you're happy to send people other nonprofits, right?
Yeah.
Give money here or go to that space. Well, yeah. So from Puerto Rico, and then to James Allen in 2020, what are some learnings that you had, either failures or things you learned from knowing nothing really about the development space, advancement space, to then help you go and grow 2020?
I think just being going back to that failure piece, being more transparent about, my strengths and my weaknesses, and allowing myself to be vulnerable and look at those has helped with growth, right? Is if you shy away or hide behind your strengths and never address your weaknesses, you won't grow, right? And growing is painful at times and frustrating and uncomfortable, but then on the other side of it, you become a better person.
Yeah.
And you're able to help people in a better way.
Yeah.
We'll never be perfect. Nobody is. But if you continue to just, be truthful with yourself, it's easier for you to navigate this crazy, crazy world.
Yeah. I love analogies. I love nature. I think about growing is painful, and I love being in the yard and being in the garden. I think about shrubs, and let them grow wild. They grow kind of sparse, and you prune them back and cut them back, and they grow back thicker and stronger. It's like how we are, right?
Yeah.
Like if we do nothing, we just kind of like grow all over the place. But you cut us back, and we become stronger.
I heard this crazy story, right? It was just in that rabbit hole of Instagram reels. This guy was like, you look at a caterpillar and you see it trying to become a butterfly, and so there's a man that's going through the woods or whatever and sees it, and he sees it trying to like bust out of his cocoon or whatever, right? And he's like, oh, I'm gonna help him. And so they unravel it for him. They unravel the cocoon, and so the caterpillar spreads its wings, and then it falls straight to the ground and dies. And in that instant, you notice, like, the struggle is necessary to grow. That frustration is necessary to grow, because breaking out of that cocoon on its own strengthens its wings, makes it mentally tough, mentally strong, and allows it to become the butterfly that it needs to be. It's
intended to be.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, man, it's been a joy talking with you. I can't wait to see what happens with 2020, where James Allen Trojans go, you at the helm, and appreciate you as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hi, buddy.
Yep.